topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We have got a great show for you for the next 50 minutes. This is one of the few of our 60 shows we do a month. This is one of the few shows that we wanted to do on a national basis. We normally do about a 25-minute show in each category, but this category is so important, and we were so blessed to find one of the greatest companies, Taxation Solutions, when it comes to tax relief, because we know that it is such a burden when you've got tax problems, and probably now more than ever because you hear about all the agents they're hiring and how they're really going after people. And what we're hoping this show do is, first of all, you don't try to handle this yourself. And second of all, we have done so much research and background check on tax relief companies. And folks, there are a lot of bad ones out there. People who pay their money and then never hear back from the companies again. Well, this company, Taxation Solutions, have been with us for about 10 years. Nothing but glowing reports. Now, the owner of the company, the president of the company, Barry Fowler, is so humble. So I hope I haven't embarrassed him, but welcome, Barry Fowler.
Hey, Steve. How are you today? No, not much embarrasses me anymore. You know, you get to an agent, you don't even get concerned with it. But I appreciate the glowing sentiment and review out there of us. We get very proud of our BBB rating at being A+, and that we're here to help our clients, the taxpayers, and fight against the IRS, which is what we enjoy doing.
Barry, I got to tell you, you are one of the things I love working with you is you explain everything to where anybody can understand. And the other thing is that I can't even imagine the pressure that's on people, what it does to their marriage, what it does to just their whole psychic, that when you have the IRS after you, it has got to be so difficult. But when someone sits down and talks to you, you've got so many different ways. It's not one way, and if that doesn't work, you're screwed. You have so many different ways, and you know this business so well. You can actually make people feel so much better after they leave, after they've signed up with you.
Oh yeah, I mean our arsenal is vast of what we can do and how we work through the systems of the IRS, and they've got to follow a certain manual, and it's the Internal Revenue Manual. So they've got to follow these policies and procedures, and we know what those policies and procedures are inside and out, and we know how to walk not just older agents but the new agents through those problems as well to try to get the best deal for our clients. The biggest thing we ask people is be totally honest with us. I can't save something. I can't protect you. I can't protect what you're worried about the most if you're not going to be honest with us and tell us what you do have and you don't have. And, we're going to go through everything with you in detail to make sure that, we've got everything you have listed down there. And because the IRS is going to do a thorough check of you and your financial situation. And, people think they're not going to know. Well, they do know if you own a boat. It's registered somewhere. They know if you owned a boat in the last few years and you didn't tell us that you had one, and, they're going to ask where it went to. So it's all the little things, and the little things matter when you're dealing with the IRS. And we see it now. This administration that's out there said, hey, we're not going after, the little people or people making less than 400,000. That's not true. We're getting more phone calls every day from people that have tax debt, have IRS problems, and the IRS is looking for them and coming after them and trying to either levy their bank account, garnish their wages, even garnish Social Security. They're trying to find every way to get as much money into the coffers as possible out there.
Barry, one of the things, because you've shared so many stories with us, and one of the things I love when you talk about is you're so well versed on this that sometimes you come up against an agent that you know more than they do, and you sometimes have to go over their head because what you're saying is right and what they're saying is wrong.
Oh, very definitely, and especially with the new agents that are coming on and have been coming on over the last couple of years. A lot of them, they're not as well trained anymore as they used to be, and they know what their job is, and their job is to collect money from the taxpayer at pretty much any cost. But they do have to follow the rules and regulations of the IRS, and many of them don't know it. And when they don't know it and they think they do, and they're going to try to hold their ground, sometimes we got to go to their manager. Sometimes the manager isn't the one that is going to give us the final answer, and we've got to go to the territory manager. We'll do what it takes to make sure that we're getting things done the right way, within the IRS and for you as our client. We want to get the best deal possible for you. And sometimes it is just a straight payment plan that we've got to set you up on. And it's easier sometimes for us to do it than you as a taxpayer to do it. Depends on how much time you want to spend arguing with the IRS and, what you want to do. And if you really want to stress about it, we take the stress off you. We take that monkey off your back, which is the IRS, and we put it on our back and we carry it down the road. And, we do everything we can to help our clients to be able to get a good night's sleep, be able to rest, let your spouse rest as well, and not be looking over your shoulder at that monkey that's sitting there, because that monkey every year gets bigger and bigger. It just grows with penalties, interest. And the more you ignore it, the bigger and larger it gets and the heavier that load is.
Barry, all these texts and emails that we get for your show, and by the way, you are always number one, number two amount of shows, all the shows we do of people who write us. There's something that we don't think about that's on people's minds unless we're actually going through it. And the word is people are embarrassed, Barry. You know this. But tell people what you say to those people who are embarrassed about their situation.
Well, first off, we're in a no judgment zone.
Yes.
And, we're not passing any judgment on you. We're here to help you. We're here to provide you that tax relief, that stress relief. Sometimes I think when we named the company Taxation Solutions and our website, taxationsolutions.net, we should have just named it Stress Release from the IRS.com, something like that. Or get the monkey off your back, we always try to come up with interesting ways of saying, hey, we provide that stress release. it's tax relief. It's don't worry about why it happened, how it happened. Was it your fault? Was it somebody else's fault? Whatever it is, we don't care. And, we don't care that it was you that it happened to. We just want to help you get that solution to make your life a little bit easier and actually a lot easier, because you're not dealing with the IRS. You don't have the stress of, are they going to levy my bank account? If you follow what we put in place for you, if you follow everything we're asking you to do, you don't have to worry about that, because we're going to control the IRS and control your situation with you. And we do this hand in hand with our clients. And not only that, one of the things that you and I always talk about at times is we're always in communication with them. And we are keeping you up to date every month what's going on. When the IRS is getting hot and heavy and needing information, we're on top of that with you. We are walking that path down that road with you and saying, hey, we need this. We need it in this timing. This is what's going to happen if you don't do this or you don't do that. We just need to act quickly so we can keep the IRS at bay and keep us moving down the right path. Maybe it's that offering compromise, and we just got to get there. And, maybe you've got 10 years of taxes you've got to file, or 7, or whatever the number happens to be. We'll sit down and look at it with you. We'll walk you through it. We'll get you there.
Barry, I'm going to, listen, I'll ask anything. And we are starting to get emails from people right here. I'm out of Florida. Barry's out of Houston, Texas. But we're starting to get people who listen to your show who are getting really afraid, because there's a lot of things happening here in Florida with people who are in condo associations and HOA associations. Their assessments are going way up. They were already living, month to month, and they can't sell their condos because just people aren't buying now. There's some bad things going on in Florida. So I've noticed we're starting to get a lot of letters, and people are saying they're afraid because they owe money on taxes and they are barely getting by now. What should we tell them?
Call us. Pick up that phone and call us. Let's talk about it. That phone number, and I know I don't give it out enough, but that number is 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. Or go to taxationsolutions.net. We have forms there you can fill out, and we'll give you a call or set up a time with you. So maybe we can talk to both, husband and wife out there. And, if we need to do it at the same time, that's great. If, you've charged your husband to do this and he's not man enough to stand up and make that phone call, well, then maybe you should. Or, hey, get in there, fill out that contact form, and we'll do a joint phone call with the two of you and make him man up and deal with the problem. What we want to do is help. We want to help put that solution in place. And I mean, if you can't afford to make, any more payments than what you're already making, we've got to look at your situation and come up with some solutions for you. Because maybe it's the non-collectible status. Maybe that's the best place for you. Maybe it's the offering compromise program out there. Maybe it's a partial pay installment agreement, or, it has to be a full pay installment agreement. But one of the things we've got to work through with you is, just because you say you can't afford it doesn't mean the IRS is going to agree with you.
Right.
The IRS, when you're coming in and trying to put like an offering compromise together, has national standards they have got to follow, and you're only allowed to take certain deductions up to the national standard for your area, for housing, for food and cars, insurance, you name it. This is what you're going to be limited to. So we got to figure out how to work within those limits. And do you qualify this way, or do we need to get you qualified a different way? There's more flexibility maybe in the non-collectible status or partial pay installment agreement. We just got to work through all these things to get you to the right program. And don't be fooled. The Fresh Start program that you're going to hear that the IRS has out there and you get a lot of companies talking about, we all have access to the Fresh Start program. And I actually look at the Fresh Start program as an IRS gimmick to get fresh money in. Let's name it correctly. The Fresh Money program. The more money the IRS gets in from you because you own money is fresh money. It's their fresh start of getting you to start paying. And so maybe it's the Fresh Start payment program to get as much money in as possible. So, we all work within the programs that the IRS has. We just got to have better knowledge than anybody else does to get the best deals.
Barry, from doing your show so long, I've learned so much. And I got to tell you, it really bothers me. There's a lot of these national commercials about Fresh Start. And I know they're giving bogus information. They're painting this picture that really isn't true, Barry. And I noticed it a lot in the national companies promoting the Fresh Start program.
Yeah, there's some companies out there that act like it's their own program, that
Yes.
they have this Fresh Start program. Well, we all have the Fresh Start program. And again, it's the IRS's way of saying, hey, you can qualify in many different ways for different programs. And it's to help get you a fresh start. But again, like I said, it's fresh money to the IRS is what they're really looking for. They misnamed the program, but they wanted to be able to sell it. If they would have said fresh money into the IRS, nobody would ever say, hey, that's a great program. But again, you got to remember that the whole purpose of the IRS is to collect money from every taxpayer out there. The whole reason the IRS is out there is collections. They are the largest, biggest, baddest collection agency. We say, and you may hear the ads, don't be afraid of the IRS or whatever, but be afraid of what the power of when you ignore them, that the IRS does have to garnish your wages, levy your bank account, put liens on your property, close your business. You name it, these guys have the power to do it, but they use it when you ignore them, and they use it to get your attention. And I'll talk to agents all the time, especially very experienced revenue officers, that'll say, hey, these guys ignored me for, way too long, and I had to do something. Now I have their attention. Well, yeah, you got their attention enough that they finally picked up the phone and called us here at Taxation Solution and got the guy that's going to save them on the phone here with you. Now, let's get some of this money back because they need it for their wage, making their payroll. Let's get some of their money back because they need it to make their mortgage payment. Let's get this, and we will start working with you to put the right program in place. And hopefully we get them to an offering compromise or a partial pay installment agreement or a non-collectible. We got to do something to get that monkey off your back, get that tax off your back, get the burden off of you and your spouse so that you can sleep at night. You notice how we always talk about stress and sleep?
What's that?
And that's what you lose when you're sitting there looking at IRS tax debt. We also talk about IRS letters and some of the letters that people get. And most people, when they get those IRS letters, don't even open them, which is just amazing to me because, you already know you got probably owe money and you've probably seen it and it's just growing. I think every time they send it out, they should send a little bit thicker envelope. And so people that ignore it, maybe when they finally call us, it's like 3 inches thick or something,
It won't fit in that drawer.
Make it harder to throw into that file. So maybe when you're sitting here at a 12 or 24 inch letter that comes in, you can't throw in the circular file anymore.
Barry, where is Orange, Texas? I've never heard of Orange, Texas.
Orange, Texas, that would be east of us going towards Louisiana.
Oh, okay. So we got Jason from Orange. He wants to know, he said, I love listening to your show. He said, I noticed you talk about individual tax people, but do you handle businesses, which we wrote it back, you do. But he told me something that we have touched on before. If you're a business owner, try getting a hold of the IRS and all the time you spend on hold when you could have Barry Fowler handling that for you.
Well, absolutely. And we handle business taxes and, both, the corporate taxes, the payroll tax issues, you name it, anything 2290 if you're a truck driver. We will handle those taxes and back taxes and everything for you. But as a business owner, last thing you want to be doing is spending your days and evenings and stuff when you could be out there making money, sitting on hold waiting for the IRS or dealing with a revenue officer that all he wants to do is collect 100% of it today and you don't have it. We try to make life a little bit easier for our business owners that call us with the payroll tax issues, trying to keep the IRS at bay so that they're not issuing civil penalties and trust fund penalties against the owners and managers and people that sign on the checking accounts business. If you owe corporate tax because maybe you're final 1120 C Corp, we handle those taxes for you as well as back tax returns. A lot of people don't realize that when you go out and you set up your company, if you are an Inc. and get your employer identification number, if you don't file for S Corp status separately with the IRS, you're now a 1120 filer, which is a C Corp, and the corporation pays its own tax, and you're required to file from that first year, whether you've done business or not. People don't read those letters when they get the employer identification number to see what they've got to file. Or maybe you did file for S Corp and you didn't really start business yet. You actually had to file from year one as an S Corp. Even if there was zero activity, you still got to file those returns. And the same with, let's say you're an LLC and you have multiple partners and you didn't start operating. You get that EIN letter, it says you got to start filing immediately. The same thing with when you file for those things. We see people have put that they're going to start payroll here pretty soon. Well, they're required to start filing those payroll forms immediately almost. And with that very first quarter that you're in business, depending on when you said you're going to start doing payroll. And so you've got to file these things. You got to know what you're doing. And, whether you come to us or you go to another tax pro out there, one of the first things they should ask you for is a copy of that EIN letter to see exactly how you're set up and what you're doing to keep you out of trouble from day one, not 2 or 3 years down the road. We just had a company that called us, didn't realize the IRS is asking for the last 4 years of tax returns. And they thought they were a single member LLC, but when they set up and they got their employer identification number, and then their attorney or whoever set them up did a S Corp status election, well, they became an S Corp. But didn't know they had to file for the last 4 years, and whoever they hired had been filing a Schedule C. Got to go back and amend those and fix those returns to make them right, and go from there. So, there's a lot of different things that happen when you're in business that falls on your shoulders as a business owner, and you need a very good consultant to work with you, especially a great tax person, to be able to guide you through it and find every opportunity to reduce your taxes through tax planning and using great tax strategies, to making sure that if you do have IRS problems, that you're getting rid of the debt, or you got a right solution to keep you in business and not take everything.
Here's one from Kai, K-I, in Bel Air. He wants to know what kind of tax scams are going on.
Well, there's a lot of tax scams, Guy. And Jason out in Orange, make sure you give us a call. Let us help through your business if you got tax problems and stuff out there. Meant to mention that to you, Jason. But Kai, there's all kinds of tax scams. And I mean, the biggest one right now, and you probably hear it on your cell phone, okay? So you just start getting phone calls saying you owe taxes. And, I find them really funny because I get one. and I get to play because I know I don't have a tax problem.
Right.
I know what my tax situation is, and I stay on top of it. But if you don't know, these guys are trying to scam you. They're either trying to get you into paying money to do a tax analysis to find out if you owe, to tell you, hey, maybe they're calling and pretending to be interning heiress, and they now want to see. You couldn't understand a word I just said, right? That's the way they play it, so that it sounds like they're calling from the Internal Revenue Service, but they're not. And then they want you to pay them money through gift cards, or go down to Target and get these cards, or Walmart, or wherever you're going to the store, and pay them money as if they were the Internal Revenue Service. Well, the Internal Revenue Service isn't going to call you and do collections. They're going to send you letters. You may now get in contact with one of them. You may get a revenue officer who will send you many contact letters and everything, and then contact you. But you're going to see that first before you'll ever have the phone conversation with them. And so you'll know who you're dealing with. The IRS out of the blue isn't going to just pick up the phone and call you. And so I always, hey, if that's the case, hang up the phone and pick up the phone and call the IRS and sit on hold and ask them. They'll tell you if what's going on and everything out there. So you got to watch those things. Those are some of the biggest scams that are out there that affect everyday people. And a lot of times they prey on the older generation as well, just because they don't want to have that tax debt. They have a huge fear of what's going to happen with the IRS and their retirement and everything else. So, if you do owe money, get in front of it. That's what we tell people is pick up the phone and give us a call. Let us get in front of it. Let us head this off at 877-996-6477. And it's a free phone call. It's a free consultation. Let us, talk through it with you. Even if you decide, hey, I don't want to use you, at least bounce some ideas off of us and talk to us, and we'll tell you what we can do for you, what kind of situation you're in, and should you do it. If you've talked to somebody else out there because you listened to one of the ads and you want to know the truth, give us a call. There are some good companies out there that'll tell you the truth, and there are a lot of good companies that'll just sell you whatever you want to hear. As I call it, it's the pipe dream. Hey, if you do this, you're going to win hundreds of millions of dollars. Or if you see the scams out there of trading stock, and if you buy this stock, you're going to make millions of dollars. Well, hey, everybody wants to make money and get rich quick. Everybody that has a tax debt wants to settle for, God forbid, the pennies on a dollar type thing. But you got to put some reality into it. And that's what we do, is we're going to inject reality. We're going to give you hope of what we can do and how we can save you and how we can get the IRS monkey off your back. But you've got to start with that phone call to us at 877-996-6477. Again, it's a free call, free consultation. Even if you decide you're going to use somebody else, at least talk to us and give us a chance to make sure that what they're going to do, what they're trying to sell you on, is really the right thing for you. Because you don't qualify all the time for an offering compromise or partial pay installment agreement or non-collectible status, to be honest with you. Some of you are just going to qualify for installment agreement. But we've got to really talk to you and put reality to what they're selling as well.
I can't wait to read this text that just came in. This is from Bill in Sugar Land. He said, I always enjoy your show. You really helped a good friend of mine get out of their tax problems. What tips do you have for newlyweds? Tax tips, I'm sorry.
Well, the first thing I do is find a good tax preparer. An enrolled agent is probably the way I recommend you go out there and do it. We know the most about tax laws inside and out. And keep that person as your friend. And as you continue to go through life, use them as your consultant. We talk to many newlyweds and talk about, what's happening. Sometimes I even tell you if they're self-employed, before you get married, make sure they don't have any tax debt. Because a lot of times self-employed people will have more tax debt than anybody else out there because of the tax burden on self-employed individuals. And before you get into that situation in getting married, we've seen where somebody's had tax debt that when they were on their own could qualify for an offering compromise and get rid of it. And we want to do that before you get married. Because once you get married, even if it's not his or her, your significant other's tax debt, their income will count against the household expenses. And so where you may have the tax debt and be able to qualify to write off, deduct everything for the house and everything else for you, once you put your spouse in there, his or her income's got to count to help pay for part of those expenses. So we want to look at every situation that's out there. So if you do have tax debt and about to get married, talk to us first before you do it, because it really hurt an offering compromise we were in the middle of doing. We were going to settle for, maybe 1-2% of what he owed. And now he doesn't qualify because his spouse is making good money and having to pick up a higher percentage of the household expenses. But if you don't have that situation, maybe you're W-2, having a good tax pro working with you as you continue to grow in age will tell you, hey, start contributing to this retirement, whether it's Roth, whether it's a straight IRA. What do you do as you start to have children, and what do you do for them? All this becomes very valuable to you when you get to our age, when you get to retirement age. People talk about putting a small amount of money every single month into a retirement account. Maximize those IRAs when you're young, and you'll have a lot more money when you get to retirement age. And, that money becomes very valuable. We don't know what's going to happen with Social Security.
Yeah.
Whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whether it's 10 years or 20 years down the road. Nobody knows what's going to happen there. It could be there. It could be in some different form. Baby boomers are starting to retire and retiring, and that's a huge generation of people. And it's going to take more and more money coming into the government to continue to pay those benefits. How does the government do that? We got to look at every tax strategy to reduce the taxes that you as a family are going to pay from day one.
Barry, one of the things we always talk about is a lot of people will try talking to the IRS themselves. How many times have you had a client that probably thought they were trying to save money, didn't know about taxation solutions, and try to handle it themselves? Tell people the problems that causes when they try to handle this themselves.
Well, first off, it causes you heartache and stress of having to answer the questions from the IRS. The second part of it is the IRS, like I said, is the largest, biggest, baddest collection agency in the world. Not to scare you of them or anything else, put the fear of God of the IRS into you, as many people do have. But they have techniques of asking questions and asking the questions that give them the answer that they need or want to collect as much money from you as possible. And that's what their job is to do, is to find the money, bring the money into the government. And when you answer questions, it's like gospel. It's the word of God. I mean, it is the God Almighty's truth. It is what it is. And then you answered it wrong because you didn't understand the question, and they expect a lot more from you, or a lot more money from you. And then when you do come back and hire Taxation Solutions, tax relief, we've got to go back and refute what you answered and how you answered it. And to, sometimes to get that done is really, really hard. It makes our job really tough because you said you had money in the bank. You said you had money under the mattress. You said I had coffee cans of money or gold buried in the backyard, even if you didn't mean to answer it that way, or you said it as a joke. Now all of a sudden, the IRS is looking for that. And yes, I've had a client say they had coffee cans of money in their backyard to an IRS agent, and you shake your head and go, "Do you really?" He goes, "No, I was just kidding." Were you kidding, or is it, serious? Come on.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. I was joking. I thought we were having a good time. Well, there's not a good time dealing with the IRS when you owe money. Come on now. And getting that refuted is something that's, very difficult to do, because you answered a question and they took it as gospel, and now they have the notes. I mean, they're meticulous in writing their notes at times. There are some agents that you go back and say, "Hey, we had this conversation," and they go, "No, we didn't." I have it. I have my notes of what we talked about. So, you've got to go through and be able to deal with the IRS in the right way. We know how to answer the questions. And sometimes they ask a question that we don't want to answer. And I can defer. You can't. Because
Right.
you're supposed to know the information. Me, I've got to go back to you to get that information. And a good example of this, and I don't allow clients to go to meetings with the IRS anymore with me. Many, many years ago, I went into a meeting, and because they summons the client, I actually had a long conversation with the client before we got there that he was not to say anything. He would defer directly to me. But this revenue officer and manager was insistent that, they've summoned this guy 3 or 4 times, and he needed to be down there. So I said, "Okay, fine, I'll let him come this time with me." And got down there, and the guy basically just talked over me. And I had to walk out of there because he wasn't even spouting the truth, and got himself in further trouble because he was acting as if he had everything under the sun. And then his one truth that he did say, he was transferring equipment to his mother. So good luck finding it.
Wow.
Sometimes having somebody that's on your side and listening to them is what's the most important thing out there. When we tell you don't talk to any IRS agent out there, we're serious about it. You get our business card and get our number. And as soon as you have that and you're a client of ours, if the revenue officer that maybe you've been dealing with yourself and now we're dealing with, and we stepped into your shoes because we have the power of attorney, you just give them our phone number and our name and tell him to call us and hang up the phone. You don't have to say anything more. Zip, zero, nada. We don't want you to. That's it. The only number they get is 877-996-6477. And we give you a hotline, actually, once you're a client of ours. But, we give out the number, and that's what you give to the IRS agent as a client of ours. And we deal with it from there. Don't say anything else. Just be quiet and hang up the phone. This is how simple it is. And that's how much stress we take off of you. I mean, how nice is it, when you got this phone here and you're talking to that revenue officer, just be able to go, "Yep, done. I don't have to deal with this anymore. Mr. Fowler over at taxationsolutions.net got us covered." That's the easy part. And you smile while you do it. That's the good part too.
Stu in Conroe wants to know, how does the IRS decide what taxpayer they're going to audit?
Well, Sue, that's a good question. Now, the audit rates out there are still relatively low. If you are self-employed, honestly, they think that you are lying, cheating, and stealing from them. If you're running an S Corp or a partnership out there, they think that you're probably a little bit more honest. I don't get the difference sometimes. So usually if you are self-employed and you're taking deductions that are outside of the norm, or continue to have losses year after year and don't see any improvement in your business, they could pull you for an audit. But you've kind of got to look at the tax return and see what's out there. If you're self-employed out there, they're also looking for round numbers. What I mean by round numbers is every deduction ends in 000 or 00. It's almost impossible to go out there and do bookkeeping for a company and have every single number be 1,100, 5,200, 6,000. Those even round numbers that are out there, it gets people in trouble. The other thing is unscrupulous tax preparers. See, there's a lot of tax preparers out there that all their job, they think, is to get you a refund, whether it's right or not. We've seen it where people have just decided somebody's in business and puts a Schedule C on somebody's return. And because you got a huge refund, you said, who cares? And the tax pro goes, I've never had anybody audited from this, and I do this all the time. Those are the kind of things that can get you in trouble. If you're a W-2 employee, and all of a sudden you're now itemizing and have huge charitable contributions or huge amount of medical expenses that get you over there, or maybe they've put in deductions for large mortgage interest that you didn't pay. Those things get matched. Like mortgage interest will get matched to the IRS database because they receive information. Leaving things off your tax return, like 1099 for gambling winnings for a W-2G, a 1099 miscellaneous, 1099 for rental income. Leaving those things off will get you audited as well. Now, a lot of times it's just a correspondence audit saying, hey, this is missing or whatever, but other times they're full-blown audits where they want to look at everything on you. When they do that, hopefully you have meticulous records that can support it, because you're going to need that. I will say something that I saw here, recently. A truck driver, their tax preparer not only took depreciation on the tractor that they bought, the semi truck, they took mileage on it, they took fuel expense on it, and took repairs on that same vehicle. So that will get them audited. Those things can't happen on a tax return. You can't take mileage and actual expenses and depreciation. You're either going to take one or the other, but it's a semi truck. You're taking actual expenses and depreciation. You're not taking mileage on that. That is equipment used in the business, not your personal vehicle. Large mileage deduction, and they'll ask to see that mileage log. Make sure you have a mileage log for your personal vehicle that you use in the business as well. But good question.
Yeah. Hey, Barry, what tell people the percentage of these letters that the IRS sends out saying how much you owe. What percent of those are usually wrong, the numbers?
Well, it really varies. We will say if you haven't filed a tax return for a number of years, those are generally going to be wrong. Those are generally off a substitute for tax returns. If
They
you
don't know
filed
your
a tax,
write-offs.
what's that?
Because they don't know your write-offs.
Yeah, they don't know your write-offs. They don't know they may know how many kids you have, but they're not going to give them to you. They may know that you're married. They may not file it that way. They may file it as single. Or they, maybe they file it married, file separate. Those are the things that they do. If you've been filing your tax returns, generally those will be right unless you've maybe gone through an audit, didn't have good representation like from us. And we do, speaking of Sue and Conroe, if you were going through an audit, you can call us. We do represent people in audits as well. So, we help you through that. So if you've already filed in your W-2, it's a small percentage of them that are incorrect. So each situation varies. To put a number on it is really hard because we look at it in each category as opposed to looking at it overall out there. But again, if you're going through an audit, hey, pick up the phone and call us at 877-996-6477. Love to help you through your audit. We've saved many people that have gone through audits. And even if you have gone through an audit and you didn't provide them any supporting documents and lost the whole thing, we're very good at going back and doing audit reconsiderations and getting the IRS to reconsider that audit and get you back to your real numbers.
Barry, we've got a few minutes left, and this is probably the most important question I've asked is why, if I have a tax problem, I haven't filed, I owe taxes, why should I hire Taxation Solutions?
Well, proudly, I would say I'm the best in the business.
You
have
are.
a lot of experience, but the reason you hire Taxation Solutions is we have a good track record of following through with what we say we're going to do, helping you, staying in communication with you, keeping you informed of everything that is going on. We need your help. So we can't do it alone. We can't make up numbers. We're not going to make up numbers. We're going to help you through it and guide you down the way. Yeah, there are some times we can go back and we can use national averages and things that typically happen in a business. But we want to get you the actual numbers to get that down as far as possible for you if you haven't filed. If you have filed, we're the ones that are going to be able to go out there and fight the IRS and give you something realistic that you can actually hold on to, sink your teeth into. Be honest with us, and we are going to be honest, sometimes brutally honest, of what we can do or anybody can do for you. Many, many people have called us and we've been honest with them and brutally honest and told them, hey, this is what you qualify for. But they got the pipe dream from somebody else and they went there. They call us back and go, these guys can't do or haven't done what they said they could do. I told you they couldn't do that. This is what you're going to get. Let's get this going the right way and get it done. And that's just one of our clients that we did that for this week that had called us a few months ago and said, hey, this guys haven't done anything for us, haven't gotten anywhere. Well, we're putting the solution in place for them. And the guy went, hey, we've had more professional communication with you over the last 3 weeks than we had with them for 6 months. How can this be? Well, we do business differently. We're here to help you and guide you and take the burden off of you. But again, it only starts with a phone call. As you and I know, I can't do anything unless you pick up the phone and call us. We don't make outbound phone calls until you've contacted us. And that's 877-996-6477 or taxationsolutions.net. Hey, you can catch this program on YouTube, right? And TikTok.
Yes.
And other social media.
YouTube. Barry's with us every month. Barry, God, and I apologize to people who wrote us questions in. This show is never long enough. Barry, thank you so much. And we'll see you again next month.
Steve, as always, thank you. I appreciate everything and Ask the Experts, and any questions, send them our way.
Love you, bro. That's Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions. That's it for us today. We'll be back again with you next month. Next week. We'll be back with you next week. Thank you, Rebel. We'll see you all down the road.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.